Recently, I made the decision to declutter something that I honestly never thought I would declutter. So this video is the story of what happened, the lessons learned, and lots of great food for thought when it comes to minimalism and decluttering, what we want to keep in our life, and what we perhaps want to let go of going forward. The thing that I decluttered was very much a part of my fantasy self, and this video will focus not only on the thing itself, but also on the lessons learned when it comes to stuff and what we want to surround ourselves with every day, how we can be compassionate towards ourselves and perhaps also say goodbye to things that no longer fit who we are today. Welcome back everyone, and if you're new here, this is a place where you can get tips and inspiration for living a simpler, happier and calmer life. So if you haven't already, be sure to hit subscribe down below for more videos like this. And before I tell you what it was that I decluttered, I want to quickly tell you about today's sponsor, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online platform where you can watch thousands of classes to learn about all kinds of different things. You may know them for their classes on photography, illustration, business, and things like that, but they have so much more, like hundreds of classes about crafting, and they come for all skill levels, so there's lots to learn for everyone. As you may know about me, I love being creative as a way to find relaxation, self-expression. I've been watching a lot of their digital art classes recently and I've been loving it. And the things that you make don't even have to be like masterpieces. It's just fun for the sake of learning and doing it and enjoying it. And they have so many different classes about crafting, like this intro to jewelry making, introduction to needle pointing, or designing and making your own cushion. One class I think looks really cool and inspiring is called Knitting 101, Everything You Need to Know to Knit with Confidence from Vincent Williams. I have knitted a scarf once, and while I really liked the knitting itself, it came out looking much more like a flag. So I guess I could use this lesson. I highly recommend checking them out, and you can even watch their classes for 1 month for free, because the first 1,000 people to use my link in the description box will get a 1 month free trial. So big thanks to Skillshare. Let's get into the video. So what did I end up decluttering? If you've seen more videos from me, you might be able to guess at this point. So I'm really curious if you have guessed the thing that I let go of. Please tell me so in the comment section. It was my digital piano. Why did I make this decision? The short answer is just that I wasn't using it enough. I'm gonna get into the whole backstory of why I got it, what it meant to me, and all of that stuff, but the short answer is just that I wasn't playing enough. There were always maybe 2 or 3 months when I would play occasionally, and then the rest of the time I wasn't touching it, and it was just sitting here in our living room collecting dust. I bought this particular digital piano in 2015, but it wasn't the first time. I've actually been playing piano on and off ever since I was about 15. And yes, in the beginning, when I just got it, I played a lot, but afterwards, I always really had to force myself to practice for a couple of weeks, and then I wouldn't touch it again for another couple of months. And it became this thing that I knew I should do something with, but somehow I still don't really know why. I just couldn't get it to stick. And this is the first thing that I want to talk to you about today, which I think is probably very relatable to many of you. And that is when things become more than just things. I'm not necessarily talking about sentimental items in this case. Obviously, we all know that sentimental items are special, like when they have meaning or memories attached to them. Maybe they used to belong to someone that you loved who's no longer with you. So we all know that these items are more than the item itself. But I'm talking about the kinds of items that we attach kind of like a label to of something special. Like these are things that we should always treasure and never declutter. And I think that for many of us, musical instruments is one of these things, because music is special. It's kind of like this magical, mystical thing. And so if you own musical instruments, then you should always keep them around and never think about letting them go. Books also fall in this category, I think, and it's probably because books and musical instruments as well, it kind of feels like they have a soul, and it's not just about the thing itself, it's more about what the thing enables us to do. In the case of books, get completely lost in a story, have all these experiences, live life through someone else's eyes. And in the case of musical instrument, being someone who can play beautiful music. It kind of feels like these items are more than just the item itself. which isn't necessarily a bad thing, I think, but it can make it harder for us to make rational decisions about them. So many times people ask me in the comment section about their book collection, like they want to decrease the amount of books that they own, but they're just not able to do it. Same with musical instruments that you don't play anymore. It almost feels like we're bad people if we decide to let go of them. And for me too, for the longest time, I knew I wasn't playing often. I knew that it was making me feel guilty just by being here. But I wasn't open to the idea of decluttering it. It was just something that I bought 7 years ago, and now it's in my life. I am someone who owns a piano, and there's nothing that I can do to change that. Which is kind of weird when you think about it, because yes, it is something special, but it's also just a thing, and things are there for us to use and enjoy. My piano was part of my fantasy self. A fantasy self means this highly idealized image of who we want to be, who we think we might be, and who we want others to perceive us as. And things that are associated with our fantasy self are also sometimes referred to as aspirational clutter. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with piano music, and I really wanted to play, but my parents weren't able to afford a piano or the lessons, because that was quite expensive. So it was this dream that I had that I couldn't really do anything with. And then when I was about 15, friends of our parents gave them their old piano that they were getting rid of, and it was this really old, like banged up piano that had a lot of character. I loved it and was very, very happy. At first I taught myself, and then later on I was also able to get a few lessons. So I was very happy that I could finally make that into a reality and start playing for myself. After doing some reflection about it recently, I figured out that part of why I was so reluctant to let it go is that I've always seen myself as someone who loves piano, who plays piano. And so that makes it part of my sense of identity. But also because I feel like I owe it to the younger version of myself who was so happy that I was finally able to play piano, to keep it up. And also, of course, to my parents who made sure that I was able to get lessons. So letting it go now felt very ungrateful and selfish. When it comes to fantasy self items, I think there comes a time when we need to accept that maybe we're not the same person that we were 5, 10, 15 years ago. Maybe we never were that person, maybe we were. It doesn't matter, because things change. Our interests change, and that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. It allows us to grow and to keep exploring different parts of ourselves. So I felt like it was time to declutter my attachment to the idea that I am someone who plays piano, because it's not who I am anymore. And I do have different hobbies now, different interests that do support who I am today. This brings me to my next point, which is about hobbies, interests, and this idea of being a quitter. I think when it comes to hobbies and skills and interests, there is a certain amount of work and discipline involved. We need to learn and practice and work at it and stick with it in order to slowly become good at something. And that's a good thing, because if we could instantly master any type of skill, it would no longer have value. So sticking with it can teach us perseverance and tenacity, and it can help us to appreciate it even more when we do become good at it. In other words, our hobbies and interests require work and discipline, but I also think that there is another side to that as well, and that's something that I've been thinking about a lot recently. The question of, what do my hobbies provide me with? Why am I interested in the things I'm interested in? What am I getting out of it? Why am I doing it? Why am I continuing to put my time and energy into music or art or yoga or anything like that? And the answer that pops up for me first and foremost is fun, excitement, fulfillment, relaxation, enjoyment, growth. So if we only stick with something just for the sake of discipline and not being a quitter, what value are we still getting from it? And at what point does quitting become a good thing? I decided that it shouldn't be this hard. With other things that I'm interested in, like art, cooking, reading, yoga, yes, there are always times when I'm doing it more and when I'm doing it less. I think that's normal. And there was sometimes a bit of discipline and work involved. but it always felt natural. It never felt forced, and I've always felt drawn to it, to come back to it. Something in me wants to do these things for no other reason than just the simple fact that I love doing it. And I think if you start to miss that thing, that spark, then that is the moment to reflect about whether or not you still want to keep that thing in your life going forward. Why we can love something so much, but at the same time have so much trouble getting it to stick long term, I don't know. I have always been rather disciplined person, conscientious. I've had a good amount of perseverance in the things that I do, but somehow I just couldn't get piano to stick, and I have no idea why, but maybe I don't have to know why. Maybe it's enough to just listen to our gut and listen to our intuition and go from there. Oh yes, let's talk about guilt. I've had to remind myself of the same advice that I've shared on this channel a bunch of times before, which is that when it comes to the things that we own, life is too short to keep things around that make us feel guilty. I think if you have something in your house that makes you feel bad every time you look at it, it's time to take action. And of course I felt bad every time I noticed how dusty my piano had become from me not using it. And it just became this thing that was always around, reminding me of my past, reminding me that there was something that I needed to do something with, but somehow wasn't. If my piano had a voice, I imagine it would say something like, hey, you shouldn't be neglecting me, you're a piano player, right? You've always wanted that, and now that you have me in your home, you never practice. You suck. Obviously, this is something that I made up in my own head, and this is where self-compassion comes into play, you know? Being kind to yourself for not doing something like you thought you would. What do we want out of our things? I think that is the question that we need to ask ourselves. This one was making me feel guilty. Yes, it was also very special, and it did provide me with many great times. But in the end, we do have to ask ourselves, is this something that I want to bring with me into my future going forward? Because by keeping it in your house and not making a decision about it, you actually are making a decision about it. You're making the decision to keep it with you in your life day after day. And if it's been this hard for me to keep practicing regularly for the last couple of years, I don't see why that would change in the future. It's just gonna be here collecting more dust. I think I deserve better, and my piano deserves better. For those of you wondering, I ended up selling the piano to a college student who always wanted to learn how to play the piano. They were very excited, which made me excited. And I gave them a fair price because I mostly just wanted it to go to a good home. And it does make me feel a lot better that I know that now it's being played and used and appreciated instead of just being neglected right here in my own home. Where the piano used to be, we now have this little reading area in the little corner, which I actually really love. We use it a lot more now. The chair and the table used to be in our bedroom, but we sit here all the time now, so it's basically perfect. I'm still thinking about ways to add a bit more personality and coziness to that little corner, but overall I feel good about my decision, and I do also feel relieved. While I don't miss having the actual piano around, I do sometimes miss the idea of it. Like, I'll hear a beautiful piano song somewhere and think like, oh, I don't own a piano anymore. I'm not someone who plays piano. So there's this small bit of grief there, kind of like saying goodbye to a part of yourself that maybe I kind of wish was still there, but I just have to admit that it's not anymore. Lastly, I've been thinking about fantasy self items and how they don't have to be gone forever, that part of ourselves. When we say goodbye to certain aspirational items like musical instruments or cooking gear or hiking gear or whatever it is, it may be hard to say goodbye to the item because it feels like we're saying goodbye to a part of ourselves, and it's kind of like admitting that that part of our life is now over. But it's never really. We can always pick it up again in the future if we wanted to, and in my case I can always still listen to piano music, which might even be better now that I don't have that nagging, annoying feeling in my heart that I should practice more. We also still have a guitar here. It belongs to my boyfriend, but if I ever wanted to play music again and if I could get over the sore fingers for a couple of months, I could pick up the guitar again. So a decision like this is only as definite as we want it to be. So what do you think? I would love to hear from you if there's anything regarding your fantasy self that you maybe have decluttered or you're thinking about decluttering. So please leave that in the comments. I'm very curious. And of course, if you could give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, I would really appreciate that too. Don't forget to check out Skillshare and get your 30-day free trial, link in the description box. And I also recommend checking out this video where I share the 10 hardest things that I've ever decluttered, which at that point didn't include my piano yet. But there's lots of good stuff there, so feel free to check it out. And as always, questions, comments, conversations down below. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you again next week. Bye bye.